right about now. All right, now I'm going to repeat myself and welcome you to the February 2016 accounting call. It has been a few months, but we are back. Now, on this screen, this joke, why aren't you working? Well, I didn't see you coming. Now, that is about everybody but us. We all know that. We are all diligent workers. So welcome back to the swing of the accounting call. I know you missed it. I apologize. We've been really busy and shorthanded the last few months, but we have already scheduled the next three, if nothing else, to make sure that I don't forget to schedule them and that they do happen, because they are an important part of our department, getting you guys contact with us, bringing you up to speed on items, addressing things you guys express via email in a public forum, etc. So we are planning on going this back. Now, just like we used to do, I am going to take a minute to talk about distractions. My sports minute. I think our North Carolina people are actually off, luckily, because I'm sure they're very depressed about the Super Bowl. I was very happy by the Super Bowl, so I'm not too bad about the Panthers. But don't hate them. But I always like it when the favorite team loses, especially when they were spoiled all year. Last night, Duke upset North Carolina at North Carolina. That's a big deal. Again, I'm not trying to attack North Carolina, but they've had a bad run. The NBA trade deadline was today, and my team, the Jazz, did nothing of note again. So I love mediocrity. All right, pop culture, we're in election. I almost wanted to mention the election under the joke section. It's been interesting this time. I'm not going to talk politics, but it is something that goes on for 3 years out of a 4-year presidency, so that's interesting. Grammys and other musical awards, we're in that season right now, which I couldn't care less about. I figure it's revenge for me always talking about sports, as I can now listen to everyone talk about music, which I don't care about at all. All right, so now we are going to jump right into the pledge point. Your favorite part of the call, I know. So I'm going to bring this up to my screen. Hopefully you can see it. Oops, too much of a zoom. Guess I'll leave it right there. All right, so this is from point 3. We take pride in our exceptional property appearance. And the point that I want to talk about is the cleanliness is an attitude and everybody's responsibility. Make it contagious. Lately, whenever I've been speaking with the regionals and the principals, they've been really emphasizing the need for us to focus on this part of the pledge. We all try to keep things nice and tidy, but as they've done their site visits, they've noticed that things are going a little bit by the wayside, especially in the public areas like the leasing center. Things that we rely on for traffic and first impressions are not as tidy as they should be. They're not picked up. They're not straightened. Really, we need to be putting our best foot forward, which I know ties to another part of the pledge. But it's an attitude that we all need to have to focus on to make sure everything's in order and everything looks great from the get-go. And everybody's responsibility, all caps, as you can see. And we really do mean that, Horizon. If any of you have ever walked around with Greg, Tim, Mike, Lauren, any of the principals, or even the regionals when they're coming by, they will stop and pick up garbage while they're walking the property. I've been with them when they've done it. I try to do it. I'm not quite as limber as Greg Beckel, but I try to pick up my fair share. It's something that everybody needs to have that opinion. It shouldn't just be your porters or maintenance staff that are doing it. If you see something, pick it up, because at the end of the day, it reflects on everybody, not just those whose responsibility you feel it is. That's a really big part. I mentioned the leasing center, but really they've talked about the need to keep our offices tidy, not just clean, but tidy. There's a difference. And there's how you present yourself is really the best. I got lost in my train of thought there. When someone comes into your office, they should be able to get an impression about what your apartment's going to look like based on your office. We had one of our visits from Mike Strand to a site where he said he didn't even need to see an apartment at a competitor because he was so impressed with the front office, he knew that their apartments were immaculate as well. We want to convey that same thing. So we have a quote that goes right along with that. And this is the former Prime Minister of Great Britain, Benjamin Disraeli. Cleanliness and order are not matters of instinct, they are matters of education. And like most great things, you must cultivate a taste for them. I'm glad that you guys can't see my office right now because I am not the best embodiment of this. It is something that you need to make a conscious effort of. Little side note, I have learned my lesson about quotes. I now look up the background to the person I'm quoting just to make sure it's somebody that I want to be quoting. So this one I feel good about. Okay, so that takes us through our pledge point. Hopefully we didn't touch on anything brand new for people, but it's always a good reminder. We're going to jump right into some housekeeping for Horizon. It has been a few months. There have been a few things that have gone on. I'm sure I'm going to miss some things, so if so, just let me know. As a reminder, just like we always do, I want to remind you to email helpdesk@horizonra.com for all help desk matters, so that we can take care of it in a timely manner. Most of you are probably aware that Stephanie is still on maternity leave through the end of this month. And while we're planning on her returning, you never know. We've had Samia jump in and join the team, and she's been a fantastic help so far and is going to be a fantastic resource for our department. And so she's been helping help with the overflow of help desk, which has been great. But even then, we know that we're getting flooded and we're a little short-staffed. So when you reach out to us directly or IM us, it tends to clog up the works a little bit. Now, I don't want to discourage you. I mean, if you need to get a hold of us, get a hold of us. But the preferred method is through help desk so that we can take care of things in a manner of priority and as we get them. So that's a big thing. One thing I wanted to touch on that goes along with that is when you submit a help desk request, make sure to include all the details. I can't tell you how many times I'm getting tickets that say, I need you to move the money around. And there's no names, no units, no amounts. Just think of it from a very black and white point of view. I need to know all the key details so that I make sure I'm not doing something incorrectly, so I'm making sure that I look at the right account. I'm not going to tell you to give me the life story of these people, but make sure all the pertinent information is there. I'd rather you have too many details than not enough. Health assessment. I'm sure all of you have heard about this, but that's a big movement within our company is to try to get us to fill out this health assessment. So if you've not done so already and you are on the Horizon insurance plan, please take the 10 minutes it takes to do it. You get a $10 gift card, I believe, which basically is $1 a minute of your time, which if I was on the insurance, I would do. So I just want to reemphasize that. Email Aisha if you have any questions about it. Really quick, Rent Collect Global update. We're starting to get in the swing of things there, and Entrada is very, 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 very close. I know we keep saying this. We did final testing yesterday. We're awaiting the results right now, so that integration should start within a month. In the meantime, again, manual submissions for Entrada. One site should be integrated. There are a few sites where we've seen a little bit of breakdown that we're troubleshooting, but otherwise we've already seen really good results. I believe as a company, since we started using Rent Collect, we have over $280,000 in collections. So that's a lot of potential money coming our way. Next point I want to talk about is the paperwork versus system accuracy. I'm seeing a trend where people are filling out a lot of paperwork and manually changing information so that it differs from what's in the system because they want to quickly get the paperwork out. That's becoming a problem because we're seeing that people aren't going back and updating the system. So you have paperwork that says one thing, dates and rates, and the system thinks another. And that's already caused a lot of problems. We need to be really careful about it. I realize that, especially on student sites, you are very, very busy. But if we start skipping that step from the get-go, we're really starting that account off on the wrong foot, and it's going to increase the likelihood that we miss something pretty big down the road. So really want to emphasize that point.
Clint?
Yeah.
Clint, on our end at PMV, we're finding that there's so much time between when we put in tickets for this kind of situation and the time we're getting response. It's really getting us frustrated. So I know that we're trying to fix that, make sure that the paperwork does equal what's in the system, but we're having some real issues about getting Entrada to get back with us in a timely manner. We talked about that at our 10 o'clock meeting this morning.
Okay, why don't you, if you can email me separately, I'm actually taking over most of the paperwork changes internally rather than going through Entrada. So for that number one reason. So let me know outside the meeting what sort of issues you're still having, and if it's not something I can handle, I can escalate it. I'm really good at annoying Entrada and RealPage into submission. So let me know. Give me those details. I appreciate the heads up. Let me know, and I'll make sure it goes a little faster for you.
Should we put in a help ticket and just make sure to CC you, or should we email you first?
For this one, go ahead and email me so I know the extent of the problem. And in the future, with future instances, you can do help desk. But for right now, bring it up to speed so we can get a plan in place.
Okay, I'll check and see if they did get resolution between the meeting and now, though. Thanks.
Okay, no problem. All right, so thanks for bringing that to my attention. Next thing I want to mention, I know that these calls are getting fairly Entrada heavy. Too bad. We are actually just implementing a new pricing structure called LRO at Mountain View we're testing to help us with the kind of the equivalent to YieldStar, price optimization. And if it goes well, that could be the first step towards getting all conventional sites moved over to Entrada. We haven't made that decision yet, but there's an exciting test going on there because Entrada really does offer us better product for more bang for the buck across the board. One thing I do want to talk to our Entrada folks about, I wanted to point that out right now, is that if any of you have gone to entrada.com, it's already pulled up on mine, there's entrada.com/training. This is a resource that I don't feel we're using very well in our company at all. If you scroll down to the bottom of the page, they have a calendar here. On this calendar are different topics where they'll actually lead a webinar. It's not company specific, but they'll have a live person going through it. They can answer questions. They can do whatever we need as we talk about it. So that if you want to understand one aspect, you can actually have a live webinar. You sign up. It is absolutely free. I attend these. I know Lindsay's attended some of these. It's a very good way of getting more familiar with the product. And try to update so frequently that this is the best way to get training on the up-to-date parts of that product. So if you're not using it now, I really suggest it. I find it beneficial for me. And I'd like to think in some areas I'm pretty knowledgeable. Not all, but some. Okay, so now what I want to do is actually turn the time over to Sonia for a few minutes. Are you out there?
Yes, I'm here. Do you think I'll be able to share my screen easily, Clint?
Sure, I can make you the presenter if you'd like. So
yeah.
Go ahead and let me make sure I can select the right person. All right. I'm assuming that your name is your name, and some people get clever names.
That's it.
All right. So I'm making you the presenter. So go ahead and take it away.
Okay. Let's see it. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about, it's basically some delinquency reminders and refreshers. My hope is that none of this is going to be brand new information for you, but it's always good to go back to the basics every once in a while and hopefully to incorporate that into our daily, day-to-day processes. So first and foremost, as you guys already know, that at Horizon, the emphasis is always to hit $0 for delinquency. Our goal is to collect every single penny and make sure that we close out all the accounts with $0 balance at the end of every month. And so what is it that we can do to achieve that goal? I'm going to go over again some of the basic reminders. You want to go ahead and create strict deadlines for your residents, and what you want to do is you want to stick to them. So if you're telling somebody that if they don't pay and they'll be turned over to the attorney for eviction on the 18th of the month, it is incredibly important that you go ahead and on that 18th turn them over, because in student housing and general housing, word of mouth is everything. People talk to each other. So if they realize that you're setting up deadlines and you're not keeping up with them, that gets spread around and it catches up with you eventually when people are not taking you seriously. So set up a deadline that you mean and go ahead and stick with that, and so they know that you mean business when you're telling them that their final deadline for payment is the 18th. One thing that's very, very important to remember is just basic fair housing rules for these notices and deadlines. You want to treat everybody equally. Even if you have somebody who is promising you at the very beginning of the month that they can't pay until the 12th, but meanwhile you're sending out notices and calls, you have to tell them that they have to be included on those notices and calls, because you don't want to exempt them from a 3-day notice or a reminder notice on your end. So fair housing makes it mandatory that we're not making. If we're sending a notice, it is for everybody for contacting. We can't be contacting one person more than the other, and most definitely we cannot provide exemptions for people. If somebody, one person every 6 months or so, if you have a reason why you are making exceptions for them, please make sure to take detailed notes on their account so us from the outside can see what's going on with that account. So what you, again, want to do is stick with fair housing, make sure that everybody is getting treated equally, and you want to be able to contact your residents in diversified manners. So a quick email at the beginning of the month, a friendly email is really good. But if you're not able to get a hold of them, I hope nobody's holding back as far as like calling them, texting them, leaving them voicemails, and in some scenarios you might have to walk on and knock on their door multiple times to get their attention. Different people might have different work schedules. Some people might just be ignoring your phone calls. In order for you to hit that $0 delinquency goal, you need to know what it is what's going on with them. Why is their payment being delayed? And sometimes it takes multiple efforts on many avenues for you to get hold of them. Social media is a really good way to tell them about reminders, especially when it is the beginning of the month and you want to let them know the rent is due, or maybe 4th or 5th of the month, whatever is the late date for your property, letting them know, hey, today's the last day to pay on time, tomorrow there'll be a late fee. But you want to, again, make sure that you're trying to contact your resident in every way possible. When I was on a property working as the account manager, if there's somebody I did not hesitate from calling them 5 times a day if that's what it took for them to get back to me. So, okay. So what you're doing with all of this contact, you're trying to train your residents. You are letting them know, educating them about their options. If they really are struggling and honestly telling you that they can no longer afford that place, as it is your job to let them know what their lease replacement options are. If you happen to know about like campus policies or scholarships that they can be applying to help them directly in terms of giving them information that might be helpful for them, that is also really, really great. Know your resources. Know if it is an above and beyond step to know, again, what their options are outside of your office. So you're not just somebody who's coming at them for, well, you got to pay your rent. You're also showing them that you care about them, that you do understand their circumstances. And if you guys have exhausted all of those resources and options, then maybe they do need to look for a replacement for themselves. Sometimes it was as a basic statement as, hey, you're holding on to an apartment that you can no longer afford. What is it? How can I help you make better decisions for yourself? So again, educate yourself about the resources in the area so you can educate your residents as well. It's also very important to keep the staff, all of your staff members involved for the zero delinquency. I don't know how often people do that, but it's usually very helpful at least twice a week or so to send your staff members, leasing agents, property manager, hey, these are the people who owe rent or small balances money right now. What happens with that is that you might be in your office, but these people might be coming in for guest passes or packages. And if your front office staff knows that they owe rent, they can very politely ask them, hey, do you want to have a seat? Actually, our account manager might want to have a quick word with you. Again, when I was on site, I used to do this all the time, and it just lets them know that not paying rent is it's unacceptable. That is one thing that they have to do as much as possible in a timely manner, and it also lets them know that the staff is, that it's not just you asking them for this amount that they can't pay. It's everybody is involved in that process. And the very last bit of information that I have for you guys, this is something that I feel like we started out, but it started falling off a little bit, is how we handle late fees. I think we're all pretty good about the fact that it gets charged on the 5th or 6th, whatever the date is for your property of the month or so. However, as far as the difference between reversing a late fee and waiving it is going away a little bit. So let me go over that really quickly. You reverse a late fee when you know that there was a genuine error of some kind. Maybe the check was in the box and you didn't see it on time. Maybe their roommate paid it for them but forgot to write their name and apartment number down. So that's when they should have genuinely not been charged a late fee. So you can go ahead and reverse that and write that description down as a reason for reversal. However, we do also have our Above and Beyond program, previously known as Yes We Can campaign, where if somebody is really struggling and waiving their late fee or us paying it for them is going to make a really big difference for them, we do have the option of doing that once in a lease term for every resident. For that particular case, we will be using the credit code LATEWV, basically late waive, waiving the late fee. And there's two reasons why that is very, very important that we use that for above and beyond campaigns. One is that it does offset the late fee, and you're able to keep track of it. Another thing is that when you reverse a late fee, it appears from the resident ledger. You can only see it if you click Accounting View. And so what happens is that if somebody comes to you in December, lets you know they're just struggling, it's the end of semester, and the late fee just not going to, it's going to be impossible for them to pay that, you can help them out and reverse it, but it's not, after a while there's so many of those that you might not be able to memorize all of the residents who you've given it to. So what happens is that you come March or July or something, if the same person comes back, if the late waive code is on there, it's very easy to spot. If you go to their ledger, you can say, no, actually, we've been through this before, and you promised that you'll always pay your rent on time from there on. So we are not able to accommodate this one more time. So it helps you see that code on their ledger, and it helps you keep track. So the same people are not coming back every other month telling you a different story just to have their late fee waived. And the code in one site and in Trada for once is the same, so we don't have to worry about that. And that concludes my delinquency reminders and refreshers. Does anybody have any question for me? Does anybody have a question for me? No?
Sorry, I will chime in really quick. I think I might have one. It might be WV late in one of the systems. So but either way, it's either late WV or WV late to answer that question.
I know in one side for sure is late WV. So if you think it's reverse in one of the, then Intrada must be the other way around.
It might be. I need to double check. So
okay.
Good catch.
It is. It's WV.
Okay.
And late.
Okay. Okay. My bad. That's my fault. Good job. Good catch, guys. It was a test.
Okay. Yeah, you passed. Okay. So then I can go ahead and handle.
I will steal it back from you.
Okay. Perfect. That sounds really good. Now I guess Lindsay's next.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Really, in our company over the last year, we've seen a tremendous growth in our delinquency collection. So we want to keep it up. It's a double-edged sword. As good as we get at it, it just means our expectations go even higher. We've really perfected it. So the insight is very valuable, very pertinent to what we do. And one other quick thing I want to mention before turning the time over to Lindsay is fair housing is a pretty big deal. I've been off-site for a while, but last I heard, someone can correct me again if I'm wrong, if you're found in violation of fair housing, you can actually face a personal fine of with $10,000 when I worked on site. But that was a little while ago. So when we're giving you these reminders, it's not just for our benefit, it's for your benefit as well, to make sure that we're in compliance with that. All right, Lindsay, are you there? Lindsay has an exciting program that you may or may not have heard of that she wanted to quickly take a minute to talk about. You out there, Lindsay? She's so excited, she's speechless. I don't hear you, Lindsay. Is anyone else here? Is it just me?
No, I can't hear her either.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, she said something could be wrong with her mic. All right. Well, we're kind of running along anyway. I can kind of quickly mention it. What's going on? We in our company we have a mentorship program that trained department heads up. Lindsay is heavily involved in this right now, where we want the people in our company to be able to grow and to learn in their positions, as well as progress to the next position, or maybe explore areas of the company that they're interested in. So as part of the mentorship program, and I hope I'm doing it justice, we give you the opportunity to express an interest in certain areas or working with certain people, where they can actually serve as a mentor for either a topic or whatever the case may be, so that you can learn what that person knows, so that you can go to them a couple times a month, talk things through, have like a short meeting with them, go to them if you have direct questions about things. It's a pretty exciting program we've had good success so far, and we really wanted to extend it down to the mid-level and beyond to really help everyone grow and see what they needed to do in order to progress in the company. So hopefully that was a really quick summation of what that program is. So Lindsay's going to be providing more details, I think, tomorrow, company-wide, about what that stuff is and the way that you can get involved. Again, I've heard really good things about it so far. It's been a good success. That's why we're trying to expand it. So, Lindsay, hopefully that was good. If you wanted to chime in with anything else, just type it in the window and I'll correct myself. But I think that's a decent, quick summation.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I accidentally had the wrong mic selected with my first go-to meeting on my laptop, so with my webcam, so I had to switch over to my webcam. Yeah, you said everything correctly. I will be sending out version 2 of the mentorship program tomorrow, so if you aren't already involved, it would be great. If you're interested, make sure you sign up, and if for some reason you don't get the email from me, please reach out so that way we can get as many people involved as we can. Thanks,
All right, perfect. No problem, thank you. Again, it's a great program. I wish when I was actually a leasing agent and an account manager, I actually had that. I think it'd be very valuable. Heard good things so far. All right, last thing I want to talk about before I release you all to actually go about your jobs is talk a little bit about Entrata again. I know, my favorite thing to talk about. I've already talked about training webinars, but I wanted to point out 2 quick things before we ended this call. If you're not on Entrata now, you'll probably be on it soon, so it's good things to know. Earlier I made reference to the fact that Entrata really likes to roll products out really quickly and they make little updates. It's really hard to keep up on that. Take it from me. I'm someone who deals with the support tickets every single day. If you ever need to know what has been released recently, if you click on the Help Support icon in the top corner, there's a Product Updates section where you can actually view a lot of the information. Past updates, coming soon. It will let you, and you can select different products that are assigned to your property, all these fun things. There's a lot of customization. It gives you a chance to go through and see what's been added, what's been changed, because there is a lot. Trust me, we know. Every time you log in, it probably seems like something's been adjusted. It's a very quick-moving company, so looking at this once a week, maybe on a Monday morning or Tuesday morning, whatever's a little slower, could really help you understand any navigational change that might have happened during the most recent update. They typically do small updates weekly, with bigger updates happening every 6 weeks or so. We have another one on the horizon. Shouldn't impact us quite as much as the last one, but that would be a good place to check if you're curious if any functionality changed after it gets rolled out. So that's one thing I want to mention. The next thing I want to talk about is a way of actually keeping track of what's going on with any tickets you submitted. If you've not gone there before, it's under Help, Support, and then Tickets. You can see any active tickets, whether you or your company, any that have been resolved, what the resolution was. And if you have a reference number, if you're like me, I have a log. I use Trello, I don't know how you pronounce it, but that program that's gotten really popular in our company to actually track all of my open tickets so that I can just type in a number right here and have it pull up, and I can go into it and kind of see what the status is. That way I can make sure nothing falls through the cracks. So it's something on the site, if you're ever curious whether we've included you on a ticket, you just know what the ticket number is, because we do try to communicate that, or whether or not we've asked you to open that ticket yourself. You can check on that status directly in your system without having to, email someone and be like, oh, what's the status of this? You can actually check yourself. And if someone else submits a ticket on your behalf and you want to know what it is, just ask them, and they should be able to provide the ticket number for you. Every time you do a phone call with Entrata Support, they should give you a ticket number if something's been opened, or they'll actually give you a conversation ID of your conversation, so that if you want to call back later, be like, I talked to Hannah, and she told me this. Here's the conversation ID. I've never really had to use that, but it is available. So I wanted to point that out. All right. So that was.
I have a question, Clint.
Oh, yes, fire away.
I have a question. I click on the calendar on where you were just talking about, and it says rapid release. That almost sounds like a prescription, but what is that rapid release? There's one on the 22nd, one on the 25th.
It's a great question. There's 2 release schedules with Entrata clients. There's rapid release and then there's standard. What it means is rapid release, those are the first companies and properties to get the updates when they occur. They're the ones that, even though it's been vetted out, will typically have the most bumps. Whereas standard release, it's been out for a few weeks. They've gotten, if there's been major problems, it's been dealt with, so that hopefully when it gets released to the standard clients, it's not as bumpy. So pretty much, it's a little slower way of getting the update. For a few
So
things,
you will let us know?
Well, we're on standard right now. We jump back and forth between standard and rapid, depending on if we're waiting for an enhancement to come through. Right now, we're waiting on a handful of accounting enhancements, and so we might switch over to rapid so that we can get those 3 weeks earlier than everyone else. For the most part, it's standard.
The reason I ask is there have been some updates that we weren't, at least me personally, was not even aware of, like the collections and whatnot, and all of a sudden there was this big, huge change. And I was like, well, when was I going to be told about this? And it caused some issues that we didn't know about. So I don't know where the communication was or whatnot, but it was kind of like, whoa, all of a sudden we find out there's this update. So that's why I was glad to see also your coming soon and past updates on that help and support, because I'm going to make sure I'm aware of that now. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. And that's the good thing. This will primarily be against Entrada. The rent collect was a little bit different just because we were still testing. That's why we hadn't done an update to everyone. Should have included you on that initially, but appreciate that feedback. So yeah, this is good for your tickets. And then again, really, I would be checking this weekly, where you're looking at the product updates. They do change quite a bit. So that's all I have for right now. I don't want to drag this out any longer. We've gone a little bit long, but again, this is our first one in 3 months. We have the next one already scheduled. You should have gotten an invitation to that. If you don't have it, let me know, and I'll make sure to provide that. Thank you all for your time. If you guys have any requests or any other information that you want us to cover during our next call, just let us know. We're happy to include that in our agenda. So thank you all so much. Appreciate your time. Keep up the good work. Have a good one.
Thanks, Clint.
Thanks, Clint.
You're great. Appreciate you. You're all. Oh, wait. I'm going to stay on. Can I ask you a question really quick?